Reverting back to the tip top.
Hi everyone, welcome back to another Watch on Wednesday. I'm MJ, and in today's video it's going to be a little bit of a different kind of video. Now, in my last video, which was a becoming video, I became Cara Dune from The Mandalorian. But that look had so many intricate little details that I thought it would be better to do it as a separate video so that I could explain each section in more detail rather than just a quick rundown of what I did. So for the whole look overall, there's a little, I'll put the little bubble up here just so that you can see the look for yourself. So without any further ado, here we go.
First up, I had to make some templates for the foam pieces. The shapes are pretty simple. You need templates for the shoulder pads, a shin guard that's actually really a kneecap, the gauntlets, a thigh cuff, a chest plate, and a back plate, of which you can then cut out with the foam. For the chest plate details, I accidentally started making it for the season 1 outfit, but realised my mistake and rectified it to show the updated look, using a craft knife to get the finer details that you'll find out about later. The details for the back piece is quite simple and just requires a framed piece with 3 little sticks sticking up from the bottom curve. The starting point of the shoulder pad details are quite fiddly and require a bit of trial and error with the raised sections. Later on in the process, I did add some wings to the shoulder pad to make them look bigger and match the original outfit. The thigh cuff is perhaps the easiest details to add, and it's just 5 little rectangles arranged with 3 together on the left and 2 together on the right. The kneecap requires 3 pieces of foam, 1 semicircle and 2 quarter circles. The gauntlets have the most amount of extras added to them, but the sort of cage section and then a series of small squares of foam, a square frame and 2 raised double blocks. After adding the details, it's time to add paint. As a base coat, I've kind of used a mixture of grey, black and white, using a mottled effect to make it look patchy and weathered. For the trousers, I use this sort of gripping plastic as the side panels, so cutting out 2 rectangles with a diagonal cut at the top. I lined them up over the edge of the trousers, folding the material over to create a clean edge and pin it in place. Once it's pinned in place on both sides, you can then stitch the panels in place and then gently add the thigh cuff and kneecap to the trousers. You can do this either by stitching or by using an adhesive. For the gauntlets, I used the remnants of an old turquoise vest and some fleece padding. Cutting up 2 strips of the vest, you need to make sure that it is long enough to wrap around your arm and span most of your lower arm. With 2 pieces of the rectangular fleece cut a little smaller than the vest, I pinned the material over the fleece, stitching a meat trim around in the rectangle. The fleece acts like a little bit of padding to the gauntlet. To keep it neat and tidy, I checked the piece around my arm, making sure that it fits, marking off a point where it overlapped and stitching along that join. It should be loose enough to slide on and off your arm. To hide the join, loosely stitch the foam piece over it to complete the gauntlet. To give the piece a more vinyl-like texture, I've roughly painted a bit of this Kids Craft varnish from Hobbycraft, which gives the pieces a slightly shinier appearance. For the gloves, I bought a pair of motorcycle gloves as they were the closest thing I could find that were easily available. Over the knuckles, I painted a large section of green moss kind of paint. As it didn't really fit with the look, I painted over the silvery mirrored part of the glove as well, and then added a sky blue layer to the knuckles and little V-shaped detailings on top of it once it's dried. To attach the front and back pieces, I had to put the crop top on because it's a really stretchy material and that made it hard to work with. I've stitched little bindings at the corners of each piece so that when it's worn, everything would line up neatly. The second layer of paint for the gauntlet, I'm adding a rough layer of light blue in an uneven fashion. It doesn't matter if it looks messy because that's kind of the look we're going for. As mentioned earlier, I had to do new detailing on the chest piece and cut out various shapes to be indented into a new foam layer. After gluing it into place on the existing chest piece, I then painted the blue and grey varied layers. For one of the belts, it required another strip of the turquoise vest from earlier, and yes, it had another fleecy layer to it. From there, all you need to do is stitch even lines all along the belt strip. I will admit, I started using the sewing machine but quickly changed over to hand sewing. All you're going for is a sort of quilted effect and then adding a little series of grey foam squares somewhere on the belt just like this. The second belt was very easy to put together as I bought this leather belt on Amazon. The only thing I needed to do to prepare the belt was to make it even as it was much wider in the centre. Then with the foam, you need a red square and a black piece that has 3 cuts out rectangles to stick on top. When attaching this to the belt, I made sure to leave 2 strips running horizontally along the belt so that I can thread these straps through them, like so. Reverting back to the top again, I added 3 stripes just under the foam chest plate. Each stripe has 2 smaller squares of this old white leather I have, with a black rectangular fabric sandwich between them. Once the 3 strips are constructed, it's time to wear the top and pin each strip where I want it to sit. Once you've done this, all you need to do is stitch them on with needle and thread. I decided the white was a bit too bright, so I've painted over them in black. The collar was rather impulsive and not originally planned, but it's easy to piece together. Typically, it requires the pink fleece again. Take a rectangle and fold it in half, cutting a little curved edge at either end. Then you need to wrap the fleece in a black material. There's no particular specification to what kind as long as it's black. Afterwards, you can loosely stitch the collar around the top, paint it a green, blue, grey combination, leaving a centimetre edge of black. As the paint dries, you can then paint a thick black line over the edge to clean up any messy lines, which tend to be quite a lot for me.
So there you have it, that is how I put this whole look together. If you have any suggestions for any future becoming videos, impressions, or lookbooks, let me know in the comments below. I love hearing your suggestions, and I will see you next time for another Watch on Wednesday. Bye!
Ooh, squinty. Okay, not doing well here.
No, is that gonna bug me? And see